There's a brain scan sitting in a psychiatric research database that most people will never hear about. And it shows that high intelligence and chronic worry share the same chemical signature in the same region of the brain. Same spot, same pattern. Two traits that seem completely unrelated, wired together at the neurological level. So if you've ever felt like your brain just won't shut off, if you replay conversations, spiral on decisions, and lie awake running through every possible way something could go wrong, there's a good chance that's not a flaw in how you're built. The research actually suggests it's the opposite. And I want to walk you through exactly what the data says, because the real story is a lot more specific and a lot more surprising than the usual smart people worry more take you've probably already seen. Here's what's actually going on and why it matters more than you'd expect. In 2015, a research team at Lakehead University, led by Alexander Penney, tested 126 adults and found that verbal intelligence was a unique positive predictor of both worry severity and rumination, even after controlling for anxiety levels. That last part is the detail everyone skips. It means they already accounted for the fact that anxious people might just happen to be smarter. They controlled for that, and the relationship still held. The intelligence itself was independently driving the worry pattern. Now, most videos stop there and call it a day, but there's a layer underneath that finding that almost nobody talks about, and I'll get to it before this is over, because it completely changes how you'd want to act on any of this. First, let's talk about decisions, because this is where the overthinking story gets genuinely weird. Psychologist Barry Schwartz spent years studying the way people make choices, and he landed on a distinction that maps almost perfectly onto the smart person overthinking pattern. Maximizers are people who spend extra time, money, and energy searching until they find the option with the highest possible value. Satisficers, on the other hand, stop once they find something that's good enough. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Maximizers are more likely to regret their purchases, despite the fact that they have, in theory, come closer than satisficers to making the best decision. Read that again. They make objectively better choices by external measures, and they feel worse about it. The more carefully you optimize, the more miserable the process makes you. That's not a motivational poster. That's the data. The overload of choice is a burden to maximizers, not to satisficers, because they feel the need to research endlessly to avoid making the wrong call. And near misses are particularly painful for maximizers. Near misses maximize regret, which is why Schwartz uses this example that's genuinely hard to shake once you hear it. Bronze medalists tend to be happier than silver medalists. The silver medalist is stuck comparing themselves to the gold they almost had. The bronze medalist is comparing themselves to not being on the podium at all. Same competition, completely different emotional experience, and the difference is entirely about which reference point your brain won't let go of. So if you're someone who overthinks decisions, you're not just processing more information. You're also generating more comparisons, more near misses, more, what if I'd done this differently? The overthinking and the regret are part of the same system. And here's the part that makes this more interesting. Schwartz points out that we're not maximizers or satisficers in every single area of life. The same person can be totally relaxed about picking a restaurant and completely paralyzed about a career move. So why do I overthink everything might actually be the wrong question? The better question is, which specific domains flip the switch? Because once you know that, the pattern makes a lot more sense. But here's what I promised you earlier. The thing that changes how you'd actually respond to all of this. Remember that 2015 Lakehead study? A 2020 twin study of 751 individuals from the Colorado Longitudinal Twin Study replicated the finding and refined it significantly. It's specifically the reflective form of rumination, the analytical, problem-solving, what am I missing here mode that tracks with verbal IQ. Not the brooding kind, not the self-critical spiral, the kind where your brain is genuinely trying to solve something. That's a distinction almost no content on this topic ever makes, because it's much easier to lump all overthinking into one category and tell people to just relax. Verbal intelligence was a unique positive predictor of worry and rumination, while nonverbal intelligence was actually a unique negative predictor of a different pattern called post-event processing. meaning the type of intelligence matters enormously. Verbal intelligence, the kind built on language, reasoning, and abstract thinking, is the specific engine driving the worry. And the reason that matters is this. As Penney himself explained, it is possible that more verbally intelligent individuals are able to consider past and future events in greater detail, leading to more intense rumination and worry. Your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what it's good at, modeling scenarios, and it just keeps running. Now here's the part that nobody puts in these videos. The brain scan I mentioned at the start. Jeremy Kaplan, professor of psychiatry at SUNY Downstate, and colleagues found that high intelligence and worry both correlate with brain activity measured by the depletion of the nutrient choline in the subcortical white matter of the brain. That's not a loose psychological association. That's a shared neurological signature, the same brain region, the same chemical pattern showing up in both high IQ individuals and chronic worriers. They're not just correlated in behavior, they appear to share an underlying substrate. And then Kaplan found something that completely flips the usual narrative. In a control group of normal volunteers, high IQ was associated with a lower degree of worry. But in those diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, high IQ was associated with a greater degree of worry. The relationship actually reverses depending on whether someone already has a clinical anxiety condition. So intelligence doesn't just make everyone worry more, it amplifies whatever baseline the system is already running at. According to the researchers, this suggests that intelligence may have co-evolved with worry in humans. While excessive worry is generally seen as a negative trait and high intelligence as a positive one, worry may cause our species to avoid dangerous situations, regardless of how remote a possibility they may be, said Kaplan. In essence, worry may make people take no chances, and such people may have higher survival rates. Thus, like intelligence, worry may confer a benefit upon the species. Think about what that actually means. A brain that models every possible bad outcome, even the unlikely ones, is a brain that would have kept its owner alive in an environment where threats were real and constant. Overthinking, in this model, isn't a system that's broken. It's a system that's working exactly as designed, running in a world that no longer has enough real threats to justify the output. You're not anxious because something went wrong with you. Now I want to give you one more piece of this before we land, because it's the one that most people find genuinely surprising. And it's about the failure mode that looks like the opposite of overthinking, but is actually just as common. Economist Shane Frederick developed something called the cognitive reflection test, a short set of questions where each one has an intuitive feeling answer that pops into your head almost instantly, and that answer is wrong. The classic example, a bat and a ball cost $1.10 together. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? Most people blurt out 10 cents. The correct answer is 5 cents. The bat would then cost 1.05, and together they'd be $1.10. But the 10-cent answer feels so obvious that people don't even pause to check it. What the research found is that people who get these wrong are just as confident in their incorrect answers as people who get general knowledge questions right. The wrong answer doesn't feel uncertain, it feels done. And people who score as more intuitive thinkers on personality tests are not just wrong more often on the CRT. They're wrong about being wrong afterward. So here's the structural twist this creates. Overthinking and underthinking can look completely different from the outside, but they share the same problem at the core. A mismatch between how much deliberation a situation actually needs and how much the brain decides to give it. Sometimes the brain gives too much. Sometimes a fast, confident, wrong answer arrives before deliberation even gets a chance to start. Both are failures of calibration, not intelligence. If you're someone who identifies as an overthinker, you've probably spent a lot of time trying to think less. But the research suggests a more useful frame. The question isn't how to turn the system down, it's understanding which mode it's running in and whether that mode fits the situation. Analytical rumination, the what am I missing mode, is actually your brain doing something productive. The problem is when it runs on problems that don't have solutions, or on decisions that are already made. So here's where we actually land. 3 things the research is telling you that most content on this topic won't. First, the worry intelligence link is not just a loose correlation, it's a specific, statistically controlled relationship tied to verbal intelligence specifically, not general smarts. Second, the brain chemistry connecting worry and IQ suggests these traits may share an evolutionary origin, which means trying to eliminate worry entirely is probably the wrong goal. And third, the maximizer research shows that the same analytical drive that makes you a better decision maker is also the thing that makes every decision feel worse, and that it only activates in specific domains, not all of them. What changed from the start of this video is that overthinking stopped being one thing. It's reflective rumination in some moments, maximizing behavior in others, and occasionally it's not even overthinking at all. It's a fast wrong answer dressed up as confidence. Knowing which one is running is the only way to actually do something useful with it. If this is the kind of thing your brain won't let go of, the actual research behind how the mind works, not just the surface level version, then you'll want to stick around on this channel because this is exactly what we dig into. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and if you've ever been told you think too much, drop it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how many of you have heard that your whole life, and whether this reframed it at all.